inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? I'm burning in the stone. There's no place to hide.
James won't admit it, he refuses to believe queer theory destabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. He used to believe in something, what happened? Mills for liberty! Gnostic sex cult, building his own world, a Gnostic sex cult, unhinged from reality, totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic, James. Paragraph Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. James won't admit it, he refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, gender binary and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy, is to believe in something. What happens for liberty? Gnostic sex cult building its own world. Gnostic sex cult unhinged from reality. It's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly?
What up, everyone? Happy Friday! Welcome to Happy Hour! Hang on one second. I just realized that I don't know where my bottle opener is on my desk. And this... Oh, no! Never mind! Never mind. Crisis averted. Found it. Because on Fridays, not only do we watch Woke training from start to finish, we drink beer. And I actually need a bottle opener today because I have 4 bottles of beer for a change. Almost all craft beer is done in cans now, which I really don't like. I'm an old school girl. I like a nice bottle of beer. I just think it's more distinguished. It has a greater heft to it. But no, all the craft beer companies have started making their beer in cans now, except that I have 4 bottles of beer for once. We'll get to that in a second. How many years before the first non-binary pope? I mean, God, isn't that going to piss off the Catholics if that ever happens? You know, the Catholics like to think that their churches are not, like, susceptible to this stuff. The Catholics like to think that that this is just in other people's churches. It's not in their church. And that, sadly, is just not the truth. Yup. Yeah, I apologize for that episode of Nitwits, but I thank you for the kind super chat, the kind and generous super chat there. Yeah, that episode of Nitwits last night was painful, man. It was painful. It was that kid, my show yesterday has gotten so many views because of that kid. It's like, and I've got that kid's, like, people coming into my replies going, Dean obviously won the debate and you are a big meanie for insulting him, and how dare you call him gay? And I'm like, oh, children, children. There's nothing else to say. There's just, I want to move on. I don't ever want to think about it again. Can we just put that memory of that kid, that psychopath, that future, that kid is going to be a problem. You know, Reagan, you made the right call, okay? You made the right call. It was a good call. Anyway, today, I found a new YouTube channel. That YouTube channel is called CLGS, which stands for the Center for LGBTQ and Gender Studies in Religion at Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California. So this isn't going to be leftist at all. You know what? We are going to do a James update here in a minute, Moody. But don't worry. Listen. I gave James Lindsay like 2 years of lenience before I started going in on his ass. I was so nice to James for 2 years. I covered for James. I was apologizing to people for James, even though he never asked me to do it, but I was just trying to keep the peace. I was just like, every time James did something crazy, I would try to smooth it over. 2 years I gave him. I want people to understand that. 2 fucking years I gave that asshole to stop dicking around. At some point, man, like, I'm an eminently reasonable person. I really am, but when you are doing everything possible to destroy everything I believe in, and you will not be stopped no matter what anyone says or does, like at some point I'm going to have to go, all right, we are not playing nicely anymore. The gloves are coming off. I tried. I really, really tried. Anyway. The LGBTQ and Gender Studies and Religion at Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California is a research, educational, advocacy, and community building organization with a mission to advance the well-being of lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, and transgender people and to, wait for it, transform faith communities and the wider society by taking a leading role in shaping a new public discourse on religion, gender identity, and sexuality through education, research, community building, and advocacy. And they've got a whole bunch of videos. They have a whole archive of videos. And the one I decided to watch today is this one. Queering and Transcending Trans and Non-Binary Samaritan Leaders for Social Justice. All right. Let's see what this says. Presenters invite attendees to explore their own leadership experiences, both religious and secular, to help queer the concept of theological education and activism. Our hope is that both participants and viewers will gain tools to further their own calling towards social justice and community engagement within and beyond spiritual vocations. The Trans Seminary Leadership Cohort is a year-long program for trans, non-binary, and gender-conforming seminary students. Yep, they're queering religion. They are indeed. They're queering religion, and that is what we're going to watch today. For this glorious Friday, we are going to learn how they are fucking up the churches by watching explicitly how they're going to do it. Now, this is happy hour, guys, so our tradition on happy hour before we get into the content is, first of all, I need a beer, and I'm actually going to make this real easy today. I got the Elysium Pumpkin Pack. Has anyone ever had this before? I've gotten this the last couple years. It's pretty good. This is the first time I've seen it out here, though, so I just picked one up. Hang on. I've got my 4 bottles of beer in my handy-dandy little cooler bag right here that I just lugged up from the downstairs. And so the vote today on the beer is actually very, very simple. These are all of the Elysium variety. Elysium is like a mass-produced beer. They used to be a craft brewery. I actually first became aware of Elysium. I spoke at a conference. I spoke at like an HR conference in Seattle in I think it was like 2017 or 2018, something like that. And so Elysium was still kind of like a local brewery in Seattle. And honestly, it was awesome. And then they sold out, and then they became mass-produced. And, I don't know, I think a lot of their beers are kind of touch and go, but the pumpkin ones are really good. And I do actually have a favorite of this variety pack. So this variety pack has 4 beers in it. You've got the traditional Night Owl Pumpkin Ale. That's just a regular old pumpkin ale. You've got the Elysium Great Pumpkin Imperial Ale, which is like a pumpkin ale, but more alcoholic. You've got the this is like Dark Side of the Moon or something like that. This is a stout, a pumpkin stout. And then you've got the Elysium Punkachino. This is actually my favorite. This Elysium coffee pumpkin beer, it's more of an ale. It's not even a stout. This Punkachino is the reason I buy this pumpkin pack because it's really effing good. So, but all the beers are good. I'm going to put the poll in the chat. You guys can tell me which beer I'm drinking first today, and we'll just get the beer vote right out of the way, and you guys get to tell me what's going on. Welcome. If you just joined, please make sure you mount the like button for me. Please make sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're watching on. We do have a couple updates as we are getting our beer. I want to do a James update. Because yes, as you guys are voting for your beer, or my beer, rather, James Lindsay has still been melting down on Twitter. Hey, Dan! Dan in with the good beer. Dan, this is why Dan is our favorite. I'm having a River Horse Hippo Lantern Pumpkin Ale bred with pumpkin and spices, 8.1%. Dan is having an imperial beer. Well, it does look like our Punkachino's gonna win. Let me see. Is that it? Yeah. Yes. Thank you guys for voting for the beer I told you to. Let me just open it up. That way I can have a little Punkachino. As we're gossiping about James, I'm using my Southern Tier pumpkin glass, even though this is not Southern Tier. This is Elysium, but it's still a snifter and it's still good. Cheers, everyone! Happy Friday. It's so good. It is so good. Oh my god. Have you had the Pumpkin Crusher? What brewery is that? I don't think I've had that. What brand is that? Okay, let me know. I'm so upset because like we're in October and this is like when we should be just starting the fall beers, and that in October in Beerland means the fall beers are going to be ending, the winter beers are going to be coming out. God, they just tease us with all the great fall beers every year. Anyway, so let's do our James update. James update. Meltdown day 7. It really has been a week already, right? I'll reload it. We're just going to go through James's Twitter feed. I don't even have stuff picked out. Although I have been monitoring today and he is still just as insane, but we're going to get a breaking news update. Let's see what is on James's Twitter feed. They're calling Kamala Harris a communist. Oh, James is saying they want the woke right to explode. It's already boiling over in the churches. So James is calling Christians part of the woke right. Let's see. James, Americans flipping out is something how Americans get is how okay, whatever. I don't even know what that's saying. Hang on. I need to make this a little smaller so I can actually read it. There's some good tweets today. I promise we're going to get to them. Oh, Marxists always lie. That's a great line, James. Where'd you get that? James is using AI. Oh, Billboard Chris is agreeing with James. Isn't that interesting? Billboard Chris is on James's side. Okay, so you know what's funny about this? Do you guys know how James has been going on and on and on about this statue outside of the UN? Well, apparently this statue isn't even Archangel Michael. Someone alerted me to this earlier in the day. Hang on. There was a woman that was like posting about this earlier in the day. Check this out. That statue that James has been complaining about for like 3 days outside the UN because James is saying that Archangel Michael is an incantation of like Satan or something like that. This woman, Stacy, shout out Stacy, says, fun fact, James Lindsay is an idiot. That statue isn't Saint Michael. That statue is Saint George. And then she's got the website here, United Nations Gifts, with the statue. Good Defeats Evil is a bronze sculpture by Soviet-Russian painter and sculptor who is well known for large structures. Seen here is a human defeating a dragon, as in the story of Saint George and the dragon. The tale tells of Saint George slaying a dragon that demanded sacrifices from nearby. So James is continuing to say that this statue is Archangel Michael, when in fact this statue is not Archangel Michael at all. And had James bothered to do like a basic fact check before he ran his mouth on the internet, he probably would have cleared up any confusion. But no. Billboard Chris, holy shit. Billboard Chris making fun of Archangel Michael. Huh. Wow. He got that from Lisa Logan? Of course he got that from Lisa Logan. Of course he did. Got to keep the woke right away from Trump, too, because James is afraid that Donald Trump actually might govern as a conservative. He's arguing with Benjamin Boyce about the term woke right. It's a deliberate manifestation of left-wing agitation on purpose that people know about but do anyway. Saying that about the woke right. I'm looking for something really specific. They want the woke right to explode. It's already boiling over in local churches. WNC is woke right Breonna Taylor. Woke right George Floyd is right around the corner. James is predicting a woke right George Floyd incident. Here it is. Where does the woke right stand on Israel? They hate Israel. So James is saying that anyone who is not supporting Israel is on the woke right. I'm sure none of us saw that coming. So it's been oh, he also said something about gamers earlier. Check this out. Can we find it real quick? Michael O'Fallon, by the way, is one of like just the smarmiest douchebags I've ever encountered on the planet. I don't know what WNC stands for either. I don't know. I don't want evil for the woke right as they wish on everyone who doesn't agree with them. James thinks that replies that he doesn't like on his tweets are people wishing evil on him. I want them to let go of their emotional issues and come back to the light. We need them to defend liberty. They're always welcome to calm down, come back to their senses, and come back. Well, James, someone needs to calm down and comes to their senses, but it's not people who are opposing Israel. James Lindsay flailing about on X makes people believe the woke right doesn't exist, but it very much... Well, and this is the thing. The woke right does exist. James Lindsay's part of it. So, of course, he's trying to cover for them. Yeah, I think that's what he means. White nationalist Christianity. I think that's what he means when he says WNC. Oh, here it is. Most of the woke right guys seem like gamers, but not even the cool gamers who embody the niche, like gamers who make other gamers cringe. Gamers are the woke right. As we've been covering since this meltdown started, James Lindsay seems to think that anyone who's not a classical liberal is on the woke right. Anyone who does not support Israel is on the woke right. Anyone who disagrees with James at all in any way is on the woke right. And that's where we're at. And that's where we're at. So guys, if you want real breakdowns of what the left is doing, not James Lindsay's bullshit where he goes, pinky swear, trust me, bro, I swear I'm going to tell you all about the Gnostic sex cult and all that bullshit, head over to my Substack, which is Carlin, Karlyn. Oh shit, something just fell down behind me. That's okay. I'll pick that up later. Head over to my Substack. That is Carlin, Karlyn.substack.com. This is where I do all my breakdowns of the far left. And if you'll notice, there's actually a brand new article on there from today because Elon Musk today was tweeting about Judith Butler. Elon Musk today posted this tweet, and it wasn't any really big deal. It was this guy who says Judith Butler, Hamas, and Hezbollah are social movements that are progressive, that are on the left, that are part of the global left. And Elon Musk retweeted that and said, interesting. Now, here's what Elon Musk doesn't know. Hamas and Hezbollah are not leftist organizations. They're not. Islam is not a leftist religion in any way. These are not leftist organizations. However, the reason that Judith Butler says that Hamas and Hezbollah are leftist organizations is why. Does anyone want to guess? Does anyone in my chat want to guess why Hamas and Hezbollah are considered by Judith Butler to be part of the global left? Yeah, I heard Aaron McIntyre did a video about James today. Should we watch it? I don't like Aaron McIntyre, but someone did send me that video. Is it a long video? I'll watch it. I don't like Aaron McIntyre. I think Aaron McIntyre's an asshole, but if people recommend we watch that video, let me just put a poll in the chat. We've already done the beer poll. Okay, let me put a poll in the chat, and you guys will decide, okay? Hang on. Start a poll. Should we watch Aaron dragging James? Yes or no? And we would do this before we start the main video. So I just put that poll in the chat. All right, now back to Judith Butler. Why is Judith Butler saying that Hamas and Hezbollah are part of the global left? Because they're being oppressed by capitalism. Because they're oppressed by capitalism. Because Hamas and Hezbollah are partners in the struggle against capitalism. They're fighting the colonizers that are Israel. You guys know more than Elon Musk. You guys know more than Elon Musk does. Because the radical socialists have co-opted the Free Palestine movement. Because they're fighting capitalism. Exactly. And so I wrote a little article about that, basically explaining that. I put this clip from Emmy O'Brien in the article. This is Emmy O'Brien essentially saying, well, she says, perhaps thinking about a Palestine that is free of capitalism and its violence. And many Palestinian activists think and talk about it this way. That's how they see the struggle between Israel and Palestine. It's the evil capitalists versus the decolonizing, oppressed proletariat. That's what we're talking about. And we know that because Queers for Palestine has been a thing on the left ever since this started 1 year ago. Everyone's still confused about Queers for Palestine. No one in my audience is confused about what Queers for Palestine means, because we know what that means, because it means that queer people are anti-capitalist and Palestinians are in a fight against the evil capitalist oppressors. Therefore, queer people are in solidarity with the Palestinians because their enemy, both of them, is the oppressive force of capitalism. We also know, because I had members of the Revolutionary Communists of America on my channel several months back who flat out told me that intifada means worldwide socialist revolution. Does not mean anything anti-Semitic, does not mean anything against Israel. It means worldwide socialist revolution. That is how they're using the language. That's what they mean. And so when Elon Musk is retweeting this guy saying Hamas and Hezbollah are social movements that are progressive, that are on the left, that are part of the global left, according to Judith Butler, that doesn't mean that Hamas and Hezbollah are politically left organizations, because they are not. It means that Judith Butler, who is a socialist, who is one of the godparents of queer theory along with Michael Foucault, she believes that this is a struggle against capitalism. That's what that means. Elon Musk doesn't know that. Someone should really tell him that. Anyway, let me see. Okay, well, it looks like 78% of you want to watch that video with Aaron McIntyre. All right. Let me see. Someone tagged me in that video earlier. We can do that. We can do that. I hope it's not long. I do want to watch this church thing today as well. Let me just find the video where someone tagged me in it. A lot of people have been making videos about James, though, which I'm definitely pretty amused by. But let's see. I know this is in my notifications from not too long ago. I did like the thumbnail, I have to say. Here it is. Found it. Want to give a shout out to Chad Masters for tagging me in this earlier today. Boing. Look at this thumbnail of James. James is in a straitjacket. Let's see. Let's see what this is about. Please don't be too long. Please don't be too... 15 seconds. That's not right. That's an ad. No! Not a Kamala Harris ad. No! Skip. An hour? I don't know if we're going to watch all of this, guys. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole hour-long video with Aaron McIntyre, but let's just, I guess, watch a little bit of it. Let's watch a little bit, get the mise-en-scène of the situation.
Commented that James Lindsay was posting indecipherable gobbledygook was pretty hilarious, because
hang on. Come on.
Everyone was
Why
like,
are you freezing?
if you are saying it's indecipherable, then it really must be out there.
If you've lost Nick Land, you've truly lost your marbles and the plot.
If Nick Land is looking at you and
Now, just to be really clear, I think Aaron McIntyre is a retard. I think he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, and I think he's unwilling to learn because he is completely closed-minded to anyone that does not think like him. I don't think he's very smart, and I don't really have a lot of good things to say about him. So I really just don't want anyone to construe this as me being on Aaron McIntyre's side on this. I think Aaron McIntyre is a right-wing, pandering, grifting retard who deserves to have his kids trans. I literally wrote an article about this. I wrote an article last year saying Aaron McIntyre does not actually care about the left, and because he doesn't actually care about the left, he deserves to have his kids trans, because why should other people be suffering? He pretends to care about the left. He sells this thing out to people on the internet, makes money pretending to give a fuck about these problems, doesn't actually know what the fuck he's talking about. I just want to get that out of my side. I do not view Aaron McIntyre as any different than I view James Lindsay, to be quite frank. Anyway.
And saying, man, you have gone insane, then it's time to think about what you've done. Type of content that it's producing. So if you'd like to sign on to this,
Ba-da-da, don't care.
Phallus being something to do with the weather, and I think he even got like a copy of Mein Kampf through it or something at some point, just showing that he...
Yeah, he's known for the grievance studies affair.
Yeah,
it was him, Helen Pluckrose, Peter Boghossian. This was in like 2017, 2018. But I mean, if you go back to his early career before all that started, he was a well-known new atheist. The first 3 books he ever wrote from 2012 to 2015 were about atheism. God doesn't, we do, only humans can solve human problems, ... infinity plus God equals folly, and everyone is wrong about God.
I don't know who that
and
is.
sort of you get after
I guess
this is
so.
where he gets sort of his claim to fame about sort of being an anti-woke academic, and there's this sort of deep American, but also I guess sort of just like a Western belief that there's credibility in institutions and we should defend them, and institutional credibility is essential. And he does take his own
Does Aaron McIntyre support Israel?
studies and his own academic background seriously. I'm sure that he knows quite a bit of things that I probably don't, or with respects to mathematics or other parts of his career. But at the same time, when you look at what is about to happen in terms of politics, like any other person online, you can be exposed to things that break your brain very quickly.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
Listen, I don't care if it's a harsh take. Do you know what I think is do you know what I think is worse? Is Aaron McIntyre and people like him wrongly informing millions of people. Like I said, Aaron McIntyre is no different than James Lindsay so far as I'm concerned. Aaron McIntyre for years has been wrongly informing people. He doesn't want to fucking listen. He doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. So I think it's actually pretty harsh to make a career off of pretending to care about a problem that you don't actually care about, that you don't actually understand, that you sell this information out to millions of people to make them feel like they're informed when they're not, which will lead to their kids being harmed. The damage that assholes like this do is that they put other people's kids in the position of being harmed because they're misinforming them. And so if it's good enough for other people and he doesn't give a fuck, then it deserves to happen to him too. That's my position. Maybe he'll wake the fuck up and start taking this more seriously and start actually learning what the fuck he's talking about if it actually happens to him. Because he sure as hell doesn't give a damn about it happening to other people. That's why I say that. If you're okay with it happening to other people because of your own fucking incompetence, then it should happen to you too. And we'll see how you like it.
Right? Like, obviously, the new atheism stuff is cringy. This is already a guy who's not just about mathematics. He's out of his field writing books about stuff he doesn't understand, because that's how new atheists work, right? Like, you're not really a new atheist unless you have a degree in something that's wildly unrelated to any grasp of religion or philosophy or theology. And then you write several books only on that topic instead of the thing you're actually educated in. It's a grand new atheist tradition, but like many new atheists, he didn't like the woke religion that was coming in to academia, and so he jumped on that bandwagon, fighting that. That became the new thing, right? And he made a name for himself, not only doing these grievance study stuff, but he started putting together these genealogies of kind of critical theory and extolling the different, or rather just
blah 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 blah. Maybe we'll watch this whole thing another time.
Sort of a new atheist and sees things the way last Sunday. So we're less than a week out from this prayer being said, which is a common prayer in the Catholic Church to the Archangel Michael.
Right. And so he lost his mind about this, just absolutely, just completely unspooled, and created a massive thread about how actually Donald Trump...
The religious right talks about shit they don't understand all the time. These guys kind of suck. Yeah, I'm already like not. Let's watch a couple more minutes. People did vote in the poll. We'll get to our main video in a minute. I just want to get a basic
has been infiltrated by a large. Well, I mean, I'll just read it. I mean, I've got it right here. So let's just dive into the schizo posting. Everybody, buckle up. Here we go. So James Lindsay said, and I have to screen cap all this, guys. Sorry for the screen caps, but I'm blocked. People send them to me. That's all I've got. I
Set up
can't
a sock
actually
account
see,
like a man. My
his
God.
stuff. So I've just put together. I've reconstructed the evidence from
Just
what I've been
lazy.
sent. James Lindsay says Operation Michael. It's an operation. Is designed to undermine the anti-woke right. Now, I think Operation Michael is just a holiday that Catholics have, but maybe it's actually a globalist conspiracy. It's a damn shame Trump has been pulled into this, probably on deliberately bad advice. It's already a live active measure now and mostly unstoppable. Here's how it works. He's going to unpack this for us, guys. Buckle in. Most Americans, even Catholics, don't know anything about the Archangel Michael except in a very vague sense. I grew up Catholic. Womp womp. Does not know anything about his actual religion he grew up in. Michael Mass was not a thing ever with any Catholic I knew. So he grew up Catholic, but he doesn't know any Catholics, I guess? Because
Apparently so.
Been around for an extremely long time.
Yeah.
So now Michael idolatry, I guess, sure, will be a big thing for our side. And the theosophists will fill in the details of what it means for most broadly ignorant Americans to mislead Christians further, particularly towards war and violence. Now, I have to say, I'm not big on theosophy. I don't know a lot about it. I've heard Julius Evola wrote a really good book about it. These are the main villains in his theory. There's this clan of theosophists which are controlling the world.
I'm one of them,
behind
apparently.
the scenes, as you'll see here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, since it's a dialectic attack, one of James's favorite words, it's a dialectic attack. The dialectic is coming for you. The left will use it to characterize Trump as a religious warlord, fitting the worst of the Operation Christian nationalism motifs. Man, there's a lot of operations in the James Lindsay sphere. Because of the left-right dialectic in play in the op, we'll be forced to take a side or dip out into irrelevance with respect to the op.
Okay.
Would you like to comment on any of that schizophrenia? We've got three more posts.
I know. I mean, it's sort of wild to me because historically speaking, like theosophy was founded by like some obscure Russian mystics and had its founding in America, and it pulls from like Gnosticism and Neoplatonism and like ancient Vedic texts. But sure, somehow we're going to confuse a prayer of Archangel. Like this makes Q people look far more sane.
I agree with that.
Than anything else I can really say.
He came
on
up
this
with
particular matter.
accelerationism?
It's just it's like a certain other online personality not knowing whether or not a certain book about theosophy was written by another character. But like it does illustrate, I think, a particularly important point here. Like you are willing to create this grand fiction and internalized meta-narrative about the fact that it was September 29th on the Roman Catholic calendar. That's the feast of Archangel Michael, the leader of the bodiless hosts. And then all of a sudden, and I don't even think it was Trump himself. I think it was just like the Trump war room, like the campaign account,
right.
which I don't think it wasn't Trump personally going out copying and pasting
because
that's not Trump. But someone in his team was like, oh, pander, to conservative Catholic voters, which that tends to be the case.
It would be nice, we get all these like, hey, happy Rosh Hashanah or Kwanzaa from people in the Republican Party. So nice for for someone to pander to actual like Christians,
I mean, Trump on Truth Social even had a picture of the Lady of Guadalupe on his like Truth Social account and just said happy birthday Mary for the feast of the nativity of the Mother of God. And it was just like, okay, like it's interesting to see that being pandered to, and it's nice to see some form of Christianity being put out by a public figure, because God knows that doesn't happen every day. But because of all the religions that are acceptable, because it's that famous in-group preference versus out-group preference, everyone else has to be catered to except anyone who adheres to any form of traditional Christianity.
Oh, please.
In any respect. And because
please. I get so fucking sick of the Christians making this argument, and I don't mean any offense to Christians, but I'm sorry. My spiritual beliefs are literally never pandered to, and not only are my spiritual beliefs never pandered to, ever, not even one single time, I get made fun of, I get called names, I get dragged, I get smeared because of my spiritual beliefs. So save me the fucking rhetoric about the poor abused fucking Christians. I'm sorry. Like, I don't begrudge Christians believing whatever the fuck they want to believe. It makes no difference to me at all. I hope they're very happy, but let's not pretend for 1 second that Christians are the only poor abused people in the world who don't have their spiritual beliefs pandered to.
That was put out there by a Republican presidential candidate's campaign. This is the end of the world. And somehow, you know, Archangel Michael is going to be the downfall of sort of this like conservative anti-woke coalition consisting of, you know, credentialed, obsessed new atheists like James Lindsay to everyone like, you know, Charlie Kirk and the rest, even though I don't even think Kirk's a Catholic. But I mean, again, it just illustrates that when you are so adamant to define yourself by what you oppose. I always find it funny when like online communists will take that one quote out of context, that like the liberals will always side with the fascists. Like, if anything, historically speaking, James Lindsay, a liberal, is going to happily side with the communists every single time because he doesn't fear them like everyone else would, you know, like every reasonable person fears communism or any other kind of far left ideology. And I mean,
they don't even
one
know
of the things I think is really important to look at is a great
we need to stop watching this. I'm sorry. I'm just going to get pissed off. If I'm going to watch this, I'm going to watch it on a separate show. Like when these two start talking about like communists, like they have any fucking clue what real communism is. I know for an absolute fact, Aaron McIntyre has no fucking clue about the far left. No clue. He is not hinged into reality at all. And so if they're going to go down this road of like, we should really be afraid of the communists, I promise you, neither of these two actually know anything about this. So we need to stop watching it. I'm sorry. I'm going to get pissed off and I will spend the rest of my time yelling. And I don't want to. I want to watch the main video instead. And maybe I'll do a separate show. But like, I'm already not really entertained by these two. I'm not amused by these two. It seems to me that Aaron McIntyre got his feces hurt by James Lindsay. Welcome to the fucking club. And now he's acting out on the internet, and I don't think he's any better than James. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for any Aaron McIntyre fans. I just don't like him at all. I have more of an aversion to him right now than I do to James, if I'm honest. Anyway, how about we get into our main show? Actually, yeah. How about we just get into the main show? How about we just do that? We are going to be, yeah, probably a prerequisite to work in the Blaze is that you don't understand anything about the far left. Indeed. Welcome, guys, to the cult. We are going to be watching this video today called Queering and Transcending Trans and Non-Binary Samaritan Leaders for Social Justice. This is a presentation from 2022, about 2 years ago. And this is from an organization out in Berkeley, California. The Center for the Center for LGBTQ and Gender Studies in Religion at Pacific School of Religion in Berkeley, California. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Before we get into that, I do want to remind everyone that I've still got a couple specials going on in the Unwoke Art Store. This is my merchandise store. The Unwoke Art Store is part of how I fund my ability to do streams like this with you guys. And so we got a couple cool things in the Unwoke Art merch store right now. The first thing is I'm really excited about my new yard signs. Who's going to get one of these yard signs? This is like the very first time I've ever been able to produce this. I'm really excited about it. You can get yours in the Unwoke Art Store just in time for Halloween, so you can have it on display on your lawn when all the kids come trick-or-treating. You got it in time for the elections. It's going to be great. That's in the store. I also do have some limited edition Halloween anti-communist designs, and all of the designs in the Halloween collection are going to be 25% off until Sunday. And so then they're going to go back up to the regular price. So if you want one of these Halloween items, best get it before Monday, well, Monday morning at midnight or whatever. So get it anytime before the end of the day on Sunday. We've got Marxism is Coming for Your Soul with Karl Marx dressed up as the Grim Reaper. We've got Collectivism which is just a cool horror movie inspired t-shirt. We've got Mark's Everyone is Equal Until They're Not, another horror movie inspired t-shirt. And then we've got the Marxist Utopia of the Dead, where we've got the zombie communists taking over Washington, D.C. So these 4 designs are available on a bunch of different products. We've got them on t-shirts, we've got them on sweatshirts, we've got them on pint glasses, we've got them on mugs, we've got a limited edition sticker pack. All of these designs are going to be in the store until the end of October. So this is an October special limited edition. So if you like any of these designs, you got to pick it up this month. And if you're going to pick it up this month, you may as well pick it up in the next couple of days, because it's going to be 25% off for the next couple of days. And all the purchases you make do go to support the work I'm doing. And I really, 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 really appreciate it. All right. Please make sure you mount the like button for me. We are going to start watching some real queer Marxists, real queer activists, not the bullshit that Aaron McIntyre sells you on the Blaze. Let's get this party started. That was quite a sound. Why'd it stop? Don't care about this. Don't care about your intro. Why is everything so slow today?
I might. We are recording this and also streaming it live. And so this will appear on our social media sites. We will not record or broadcast the chat. So feel free to chat away. And yes, if you are blurring your screen, we ask you not to. That causes some visual issues for some folks. And I will turn it over now to Reverend Jacob Hero Shaw.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, as Bernie said, for being here. We have a workshop for you. It's a panel discussion with the Trans Seminary and Leadership cohort. We have 4 of our students here with us this evening or afternoon, depending on where you are. And so we're just going to jump right in with some questions for them, and they will share a little bit, and we'll also have some time
This person
at the end for
sounds
some
trans
discussion.
to me.
So as a cohort, we have discussed that in seminary, that you need to unlearn as we learn. So I invite you to introduce yourself as you answer the question, who you are, where you are from for our cohort students, and where you're studying, and then what are some things that you've had to
Thanks,
unlearn.
Brunsyuck. Appreciate that.
I'll jump in first. My name's Meg Mercury. My pronouns are they, them, theirs.
They, them.
I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I am studying, I'm getting an MA in religion and theology at United Theological Seminary of the Twin Cities. A lot of what I've had to unlearn during my seminary journey so far has been ideas that, religious ideas that I had rejected because they were harmful, but I had not unlearned the idea that those were the only ideas available to me.
Wow.
And so creating space for more life-giving narratives and creating space for religious and theological.
So is religious education on the left just considered to be basically like a choose your own adventure at this point? Like you get to go to like seminary and you get to reject all the ideas you don't like, and you get to replace those ideas with any ideas you just make up. Is that what I'm hearing?
Theological dialogue that honors all of who I am as a person and all of the people that I have come to know and love.
All right.
I can go next. My name is Averin, and my pronouns are they, them, theirs. And I'm a student
They, them.
at Andover Newton Seminary at Yale Divinity School.
Yale.
And one of the things that I've been working on unlearning is kind of just, I think before I got to seminary and even at the beginning of seminary, I had this set idea of what religious leadership, especially Christian religious leadership, looked like. And I think I've been unlearning kind of a lot of the, there's kind of, I think, like this physical ideal that I've been trying to like impose on myself, and that I thought that I had to just kind of like fit myself into a certain mold. And it's been slowly, I mean, I wish I could say, and I threw that away the first day and have been constructing my own, but it's been slowly like chipping away at this false ideal, and needing to unlearn that it's not about shaping or molding myself into someone else, but rather figuring out like what are the gifts, skills, abilities, style that I already have that I can use. Yeah.
Thank you, Avron.
I'll go next. That helped me. Thank you, Avron. Avron's been very helpful throughout with the kinds of things that they bring into spaces, as have Leo and Meg and the others that aren't here. I was having a hard time thinking of what I had to unlearn, but I realized as Avron was talking, what I had to unlearn is that I'm not a beginner. I had this feeling, right? I've been outside of faith for decades. I only came back less than 2 years ago. And yet here I am, I'm preaching every other week. I'm doing outreach. I'm working towards social justice in my area. And I speak purposefully and clearly in seminary to call professors to account for when they either choose silence or overlook trans and gender.
They struggle.
And what I
with
realized
seminary
from a
professors.
comment by a pastor that worked with us for a while was I've been in faith training for decades. I was a public school teacher.
Of course.
I spoke daily to kids about purpose, about growth. I made sermons, right? I didn't call them sermons then. I learned how to listen and to pay attention to those around me. And I didn't think in terms of Christianity.
On their Instagram.
My faith development came in the loving hands of atheists and agnostics and broadly spiritual people who taught me love and taught me community. And those are all things that I carry into every.
My faith education. Oh, shit. I accidentally went backwards. Shit. God damn it. Hang on. I hate YouTube. Why is it doing this? No, I don't want to watch Queering Lent. I want to go back to the thing I was watching. No, not Queering Lent. Oh my God. Seriously? All right, we're going to have to wait for my YouTube to actually load itself. Here it is. Okay. Okay. I paused. I wanted to pause it because, like, this person's saying, like, I got my faith education from atheists. Does that seem ridiculous to anyone else? That's quite an Instagram profile, bot.
I learned how to listen and to pay attention to those around me. And I didn't think in terms of Christianity. My faith development came in the loving hands of atheists and agnostics and broadly spiritual people who taught me love and taught me community. And those are all things that I carry into every place that I am now. So there we go.
And I'm Leo Sage, and my pronouns are they, them, or he, him. And I'm a student at Columbia Theological Seminary, which is in Decatur. And one of the things that I've had to unlearn being in seminary is my attachment to the idea or the notion that my lived experience does not count as a valid source of academic research or knowledge. And that was something that I felt was deeply ingrained in me from other academic experiences, but also because I am a transfer student here at Columbia from my first experience in seminary, which really focused me toward that kind of thinking and separating my body, my spirit, my experiences as a human being on this earth from certain academic sources and them being more valid in my own life. So now I'm unlearning that and really rediscovering what it means to bring my fullness to spirituality and faith, even when I am intellectually tearing it apart.
Thank you for that. One of the things that we know with the cohort is that the cohort students are often, they all come from different seminaries, and they're often the only trans person in their learning context. And sometimes the only trans person that the people in their classes have ever even met or considered that trans folks even exist. So our next question is, what unique gifts do trans folks offer in religious and spiritual leadership?
I think I can try to take a stab at this one. Something that I've been realizing, so this past year I got to serve as like a campus minister for my seminary, and we have like daily worships that we plan and have together. And something I've noticed that like a unique gift I have being trans and queer is that I'm not unaccustomed to saying things that are unpopular opinions or being stared at or saying something that might be perceived as radical or political. And so because I think I'm familiar or prepared with doing that in other spaces, bringing that into religious or spiritual spaces was not a big stretch for me. Where I've noticed with some of my colleagues and classmates, it's a lot bigger maybe stretch for some people, or some people are wondering like, how would I approach bringing up a political topic? Like, what does that even have to do with our spiritual lives? Where I feel like I'm maybe ready to make statements that people are like, whoa, that's too bold. You can't say things like, God's trans. Like for me, like it's things that, I mean, I might say things just off the cuff that might be like theologically mind blowing to others. But for me, it's like, oh no, it's just another Wednesday. Like I'm used to offending people before my coffee. So it's like things like that where one of the few times where I'm like, you know what, I'm okay having thick skin. Like I'm actually used to having thick skin when it comes to talking about certain topics. So I think in needing to stand up in front of a community and speak my truth, especially when that truth is different or seen as controversial or seen as political or seen as dynamic or even like really important, I think I'm just ready. I don't know.
Thank you. Do any of the other students want to answer that one?
Yeah, I think, I've had kind of an unusual experience at my seminary. There are a lot of queer people at my seminary.
Really?
And a lot of them are transgender and are non-binary. And so I'm very much not alone in my seminary journey, which is such a gift and such a privilege that many of the trans people and many of the trans seminarians I know don't have. But because of that, I get to watch this sort of play out in multiplicity. And I see it in the cohort space that we share too, which is...
But remember, guys, according to James Lindsay, what churches really should be afraid of is the woke right taking over, not the queer and non-binary people taking over seminaries. It's the woke right that's the problem.
Trans people have a unique capacity for joy. I think it's born out of some of the burdens that we have also had to carry in our culture. But we really have such a unique capacity for joy, and bringing that into a leadership space allows us to hold human complexity in, I think, a very unique way. And so it really, I don't know, it gives us a little something extra that that I don't always see in everyone else, but I see it in us, and I'm grateful for it, and I'm grateful that I get to keep witnessing it.
Thank you. All right. We'll go ahead and move to the next one, unless Ika or Leah, did you? All right. So, what role models have you found in spiritual leaders, and how did you find them?
Sorry, I was trying to unmute and I just opened the chat. You know, that's interesting to me because I'm not certain about this one, yet I'm going to answer it. I don't know that I have role models in spiritual leaders as such. Like, I love Nicole Garcia, who's sitting in here, and what she's done for trans people. And I adore all the work of our elders that have opened doors for us. But when I look to leadership, I look to youth, because it's in youth that I'm seeing
Hello, Paolo Fieri.
an openness that many of us who are older
We must learn
are still
from the
carrying so
children.
much pain from the fight
We must only learn
that we
from
had
the
to fight. And
children.
that's not to say that youth don't have pain, but youth, I feel, have a take on the world that's powerful and loving. I mean, like, I go to Teen Vogue for some of my better political
Vogue
coverage
is
that I
so-
see out there. I go to
Teen Vogue is completely socialist in their political coverage. Like,
the
completely
younger trans
socialist.
folks to hear what they're saying and hear what they're doing, and they become the spiritual leaders in ways that I don't necessarily resonate for me. And I'm cautious about the way I'm saying this, because I don't want to sound like I'm dismissive of people my age and older, because I'm not, but it's really in the youth.
And shout out to Reverend Nicole Garcia, who is a cohort alum and also was on the faculty of the cohort. So it's always nice to have her with us. All right. Anyone else want to weigh in on role models? All right.
Yeah. So for me, there have been so many different
more often, if I'm honest about it.
role models in
For
terms of
socialism.
spiritual and religious leadership. Some are ancestors that I commune with on a regular basis, like Audre Lorde and Howard Thurman and Thich Nhat Hanh and Louise Hay. And then, of course, you know, the both the dynamic complexity of.
Can I just tell you guys? Side note, off topic. I posted a video last night saying, can someone please give me a reason to vote for Donald Trump? Because Trump is pandering to leftists and moderates. He's not speaking to any of the issues that I care about. He's not going to do anything that I find valuable. He doesn't understand communism and the left, so why would I vote for him? And my feeds on like 3 different platforms today have been filled with comments from conservatives going, you got Trump derangement syndrome. You have to vote for Trump or you're a leftist. You just don't get it. There is no other choice but Trump. If you don't vote for Trump, you're a liberal. And I'm like, I'm actually voting for Trump, not voting for Trump because he's pandering to liberals. So how does that make me a liberal? You're just a liberal. You're just a leftist. You're stupid. You're Trump deranged. You're a Democrat. It's like, oh my God. Oh my God. Trump is the only solution to communism. Really? If you don't vote for Trump, you want communists to win. Really? It's like Trump voters that are actually just solidifying that I will absolutely not vote for Donald Trump, ever.
Of their life professionally, but also their gifts to the queer and trans community. Bishop Pauli Murray would be another. And then I would agree with Vika in that there are lots of young spiritual leaders, faith leaders, ministers I'm really excited about. And it's really, it never ceases to ground me and humble me when people.
One person, I swear that this is the last thing I'll say. One person even came into my comments and she was like, "Listen, Carlin, I know conservatives have really fucked you over and they made a meme about you with that Fox News clip being taken out of context. And I know conservatives have treated you really badly, but you still have to vote for Trump." And I was like, really, do I? Do I though? But do I?
Are just, aware of the presence of someone like, Vika or Jacob or Abram or Meg or myself, like that there are trans and gender expansive folks in spiritual leadership. And so just seeing that there are more coming and that they already are here and making their space and making themselves known is inspiring to me as well. And then there's just probably my biggest resource in terms of their wealth of experience and gifts and models for leadership come from Black women. I can think of Reverend Dr. Jackie Lewis, Bishop Yvette Flunder, Mama Ruby Sales. There's Reverend Dr. Jacqueline Grant. I mean, there's so many who I think offer a very queer, inclusive, and creative and bold way of leading in ministry that is certainly helpful for me, but also bringing in those elements of nurturing and wisdom and just experience that has been, I think, really helpful as I continue to discern my call and vocation and try my best to live that out with their example.
Thank you for that. All right, our next question is a two-part question. Do you have a queered spiritual practice?
Oh!
And could you describe how that fits into your spiritual growth?
What?
Meg, do you want to go? Okay. Honest, like listening to other folks in the cohort talk and thinking about this one, I wasn't going to plan on answering this question, but Vika and others made me think about how like just queering the idea of spiritual practice and like being encouraged to do that and like things that I do. So I guess answering the other question as well about role models, like a lot of times when I think like, oh man, I really need to get some inspiration, or I have like a spiritual dilemma or something, or I'm just feeling kind of in a funk and need to connect with something, I feel like the sources I go to first are like super queer. Like I go online and look at Instagram and I look like, I'm not like looking like, let me talk to my advisor or let me like consult the library. It's like, no, let me see like, what are other queer millennials saying, doing, thinking about, struggling with. And so it's kind of weird because I think if someone at seminary asked me like, what are your spiritual practices? Like, scrolling through my like Instagram and things is kind of hard to bring up in those conversations. But honest, a lot of times, like it is those, for me at least, it has been finding, and I guess that's just like, that's a very non-binary experience, I guess, of finding inspiration, connection, meaning through unexpected things or through unconventional lanes or
How is
avenues,
that
because that's
queer?
what folks have to use, because historically and even now people aren't allowed in the libraries or in the places where traditionally we're making knowledge, I guess. And so I love, I guess, finding power through that, especially I'm that student where if I can quote a tweet in my paper,
What?
I'm here for that type of like 21st century like living.
This person is a student at Yale, and they're quoting tweets in their papers. At Yale.
Into how we do academics now. But I love that power because it also kind of what Leo was saying, like I'm thinking of like Black women, but also like trans folks and queer folks who have just a lot of times been excluded from knowledge making and knowledge keeping. It gives me a lot of joy and meaning to be able to find inspiration and connection through unconventional sources, I guess. So I just thought I'd share that.
That's awesome, Averin. I totally included screenshots of an Instagram DM conversation in one of my papers one time. So I'm like with you there. I was going to say that I don't think there are any spiritual practices that are not inherently queer. I don't think that you can be spiritual and exclude queerness.
What? I'm sorry, what?
I was going to say that I don't think there are any spiritual practices that are not inherently queer. I don't think that you can be spiritual and exclude queerness from that. What's not queer about multisensory experiences connecting to the divine? What is not queer about pageantry or ritual? Like for me, regardless of the tradition that you're in, there is something sort of inherently queer about connecting to the divine. And so, I mean, my own personal practices.
There is something inherently queer about connecting to the divine. As though the divine is not available to all of us. Inherently.
Involve a lot of time in nature and being in community with people and sharing meals together. Those are kind of how I grow spiritually, always in community. And again, what could be queerer? So yeah, that's been my experience and my observation is that even people who think they are engaging in spiritual practices that somehow are not queer, I'm like, well, wait till you read more about the history of that, friends, because hate to break it to you. But we've always been here and we've always been shaping these experiences for our broader communities. I think queer people are often our spiritual leaders.
That was an amazing clip. And guys, I want to remind everyone, if you think this is not in your church, I promise you it's in your church. Even you Catholics, this is in your church too. Have you met your Pope?
Yeah, I love that, Meg. Because it is, you're so right. There's, Liz in the chat says
right.
There's a book in that.
You're so
get
right.
to it, Meg.
Religion is inherently queer.
Your first summer off since you started seminary. Go write that book.
Oh, is this one of Dean's little friends? You look like you must be one of Dean's little friends. Look at this little look at this faggot. Look at this little faggot coming on my channel, waiting 5 minutes to subscribe just so he could tell me off. Do you have anything intelligent to say? We can make fun of you a little bit. Do you guys want to bully this guy? Every time you speak, it sounds like kill. Why don't you delete your channel? Delete your channel. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm not a liberal or a Republican. Okay, sure. No, I didn't say you were a liberal or Republican. I said you were a faggot. To be really clear, I said you were a faggot. Where's my husband? Downstairs. Downstairs. Literally, right now. All right. You do not, bro. Like, we can see your picture. You do not fuck women. You, like, bro, come on. You don't, yeah. Like, 1 in the chat if you think this guy is a faggot. 2 in the chat if you think this guy fucks women. And this will be the last thing we'll do. 1 in the chat if you think this guy is a faggot. 2 in the chat if you think this guy fucks women. Let's just see. That's a lot of ones, bro. It's a lot of ones. Holy shit, that's a lot of ones. But you don't actually fuck men, right? It's the men who fuck you. I mean, we know, bro, I love gay men. Gay men are all over my channel all the time. We know you're not fucking men either. The men are fucking you. Right? Goodbye. That was fun. Continuing.
All right. Anyone else want to share about your spiritual practices?
I've got one, but it ties into the next question. So if you want to
All
ask,
right. Yes, you want to. All right. I'll go for the next question. Within theological education, how do you find or create spaces of queer refuge and retreat?
So first of all, I realized I never introduced myself. I'm Vika Edesteele, pronouns she, her. I go to seminary at Wartburg in Dubuque, Iowa, and live in Madison.
Iowa!
And preach and work at St. John's Lutheran. And
St. Lutherans.
So,
there you go, Lutherans.
how do I
Congratulations.
find or create space? And I guess for me, this ties exactly into the spiritual practice I do, because I needed to be able to step out of the ways people expect things to be done. When I started seminary, I couldn't pray. I only knew prayer as a weapon because I'd only heard it that way for so long. And I cringed whenever people prayed. And so really, even before I started seminary, I started recreating prayer for myself. Instead of beseeching God, instead of thanking God, I thought of prayer as communication and started listening. And my prayers that I started queerly as a TikTok ministry were all about listening. What do you hear when you're out? Hearing the wind, or trucks driving by, or when you feel the words of God in the soil as decay turns to growth. How do you notice God in your life when you're sipping coffee and the steam is coming up into your mouth? What places is that? And where is the prayer in each one of those moments? And as I started feeling and believing and understanding that, I could catch it when I was struggling with a professor's insistence on gender binaries in God that are always he, him, and I was frustrated. And I could walk outside and just feel a different truth from the rustling of the leaves of the tricolor birch that's across the street.
So what this means is that queering religion means God is non-binary. Let's listen again. The left believes that capitalism created the gender binary. One of their goals is to abolish the gender binary, which means men and women. They want a world of non-binary. They, them. A lot of people on this webinar identify as they, them. They, them is non-binary. Non-binary means no binary. Again.
When I was struggling with a professor's insistence on gender binaries in God that are always he, him, and I was frustrated. And I could walk outside and just feel a different truth from the rustling of the leaves of the tricolor birch that's across the street.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to how within theological education, how do you find or create create spaces of queer refuge and retreat?
I will also echo Vika again in that this, in many ways, it ties in with the previous question about spiritual practices. But for me, I have found queer refuge in seminary through
hello, offensive saint. It's good to see you.
The most basic and yet important things to me, which are eating and drinking. So I've found just a reinvention, I guess, in my mind of what communion looks like through happy hour, brunch, karaoke. You know, I get together with queer folks here at Columbia and find ways to, you know, connect and do our best not to talk about seminary, and to try to just really be present with one another. And in that, I feel the living presence of Christ. I also, though, have found really interesting and delightfully surprising queer retreat in the conversations with my classmates who were nothing like me, who are not trans, who are not queer, who are not American. It is that, to me, those moments where we have conversations in the library or after a class, maybe where we were in different points, arguing different points theologically, or just hearing about each other's lived experiences and sitting in the messiness of what it means to have like deep human connection. That is just as simple to me. That is queer refuge and queer retreat. And in the diversity and the differences of our experiences, I also experience the expansiveness of creation and what it means to kind of exist.
Hey, offensive saint, you missed the part a couple minutes ago where they were talking about how all religion is inherently queer.
As queer people, even with my colleagues, again, who don't identify or are not part of the LGBTQ community. And that's where I get a lot of renewal and hope for the world, because we're able to have those moments of connection, being so different. That is very renewing for me.
Thank you. All right. So all of our students are somehow in formal education, which means that they're operating within some sort of institutional framework. So the next question is, what does an institutional win look like these days?
I'll jump in to be first on this one again, because this one I could not. Oh, sorry. That's my dog's medicine reminder. It was hard to think in terms of an institutional win. And I kept thinking in terms of professors that I've tried to speak and make clear, and they're always very nice and they're always very sweet, and then they just keep doing things the same way. And there's no change. And I'm on the DEI team, and we talk and we talk and we talk, and there's no change. But I stopped and I realized the institutional change isn't happening at those levels. It's happening with the students, and it's happening with the people I'm speaking with. The institutional change is one that's going to take place 10 years from now.
This is important. What this person is saying is important. Do not be distracted by the fact that we're looking at someone that looks like Tim Walz in a wig, okay? What this person is saying is, this person is in seminary in Iowa. I forget exactly which one, but they said explicitly they were in seminary in Iowa. What they're saying is that it's not about the teachers becoming more queer. It's about the students becoming more queer. And if we make the students in the seminary more queer, then in 10 years, they will be the teachers. Listen again.
We talk and we talk, and there's no change. But I stopped and I realized the institutional change isn't happening at those levels. It's happening with the students, and it's happening with the people I'm speaking with.
Ding.
The institutional change is one that's going to take place 10 years from now or 20 years from now, as those students potentially, hopefully, grow into spaces. And I think specifically, I go to Dubuque, Iowa. I'm in the ELCA. I'm white and I'm surrounded by whiteness, right? I'm surrounded by rural. I'm surrounded by small town. And that's not to say rural and small town is terrible, but There's an awful lot of rural and small town people have not been made aware what you were saying earlier. The students in my cohort, I am the trans person. There are other people, there are other queer people, but we're mostly quiet or silent because people want to get jobs, they want to become pastors. And so I live into that. I walk into a space, I'm 6'2", 165 pounds. No, I'm sorry, 265 pounds. I wish 165. I walk into a space and I'm seen, so I will be seen. And I do that in every class, and I speak in my classes. And I have these kids, right? And some of y'all are kids too, I know, that are like 20 years old, and they're hearing me. And I had in this moment, and this will be the last piece I'll say, a young man, I won't say his name, that sat down with me one day and he said, Vika, can I just talk to you? Because I really don't get all this. And I said, I'm here, I'm a teacher. This is what I've been all my life. And we had this lovely conversation. That was the end of it, right? About being trans, what it means, etc. It must have been a month later, we were talking about ecumenical unity. The professor was talking about how great it was to have ecumenical unity. And this young man raised his hand. He said, well, but is it really ecumenical unity when some of the churches aren't allowing trans people to preach or be members? It's like, yes, it's not me saying it. It's other people saying it. That's where the institutional change, I hope, can happen.
Told you.
As usual, I agree with Vika.
And I just want people to notice, look at how small that win is. Look at how small that win is. They got one student to say in one seminary, why aren't we letting trans people be preachers in school? And they're all excited about this. They fight for that one moment. And once they get that one moment, they fight for another one, and then they fight for another one, and then they fight for another one. Now, if I told this to like conservatives or right-wingers, they would say, how many people actually heard that? That's just one person. That's just one crazy person. That's not that big a deal. It's just one person. And they miss the entire point. The culture is won through a battle of inches. That's what the battle of inches looks like. Yeah, I think this one specifically is Lutheran. I don't know what the other ones are.
100 things that I think about. So at my institutions, similar to.
But listen, make no mistake, we watched a presentation about Catholicism and this exact idea like 2 months ago. So this is in every church. Just because we might be listening to a Lutheran or an Episcopalian today, this is absolutely in the Catholic Church. 100%. I think the Catholic Church has they're a little bit more like safeguarded against it, but don't think that this is not there because we've literally watched presentations about it.
Vika, I go to a predominantly white institution.
Yale.
Where change, I think for me, so institutional change and thinking of a win, for me, when I think of a win, it's those instances where I'm about to open my mouth to say something like, the transphobia, and it comes out of someone else's, like a cis person says it instead. That's where I'm like, oh, that's a win. And my institution is so similar, we've kind of gotten on the bandwagon of DEI and wanting to be inclusive and things like that. So,
green-eyed lady who never listens to me and always argues with me, I will keep bullying you into submission. Who in the chat remembers 2 months ago when we watched a presentation exactly like this about the Catholic Church? Because green-eyed lady seems to think I'm making that up because green-eyed lady doesn't like to listen. And the only way green-eyed lady seems to learn is if we bully her into submission. Who in the chat remembers watching a presentation just like this about the Catholic Church like 2 months ago? Bot remembers. Maria remembers. Night's Light remembers. Anyone else here for that one? Rottweiler remembers. Anyone else? It's on the channel. You guys can all go back and look at it. Everything I do is public. If I say we watched a presentation on something, it's because we've actually watched it. It's documented on the channel. When you argue with me about what we've seen on this channel, you will lose. Seems to me some people in the chat remember that.
It's so for me, the win and the change institutionally doesn't come when students, so students like me, like I not complained, what
Bod
do you
just
call
put
it?
the link in the
I
chat.
spoke up enough so that we could acknowledge and honor
Listen.
like Trans Day of Remembrance. And
Listen. You can have issues with trans people all you want, but leave the Uggs alone. Okay? Leave Uggs alone. That's not cool, man. Everyone can wear Uggs. Uggs are comfortable. They're cozy. They're comfortable. I have nothing else to say about them other than they're comfortable. And you will not destroy them. Just in your hatred of trans people, offensive saint, you will not take down things that are good and pure in this world.
and Trans Day visibility at our school. And so the change necessarily for me isn't just the powers that be saying, yeah, sure, Averin, you can do this thing if you want, like, yeah, do whatever you want. For me, the change is those moments when students do something and we see the deans show up, or we see students that are outside of the normal group of like, there's like the 4 queer kids and then like our other 6 allies who are also our friends and roommates. Like, so when I see more people than that core group where I was expecting to come, the people who would be at my house anyway, like when it's more people than that, that's where I'm like, oh, snap, this is changing. Or, oh, Dr. So-and-so is here, and Reverend so-and-so, and Dean so-and-so. Like, look how many people are here and actually coming, not because they have to, but because they're interested or curious or want to show support. Those are the things that I'm most excited about, or those are the things that I'm journaling about first, or texting my friends about first, and calling them wins, more than when we get kind of like an email or another announcement about DEI initiatives or things.
I'm going to say something brief just to like, yes, to all of what Vika and Averin just said.
Yes, queen.
But I'm at a conference on theology and disability this week. And I heard something today that just like rocked me to my core because it was exactly right. And they were talking about inclusion for disabled people in theological spaces. And someone in the room said that inclusion is not about doing the right thing for that one person who's finally getting included. It is not for their sake that we do that. It is for the community and the way that the community is enriched when everyone who has been excluded is finally able to be part of the conversation, when the table is big enough for all of us. And so when I think about institutional wins, I think about the table getting a lot bigger. And I think about the people within the institution who have always had a place there, finally recognizing what they have been missing out on all along, whatever that looks like.
All right, I have to add, because what you all have said is so good. For me, institutional wins or institutional change is something that positively and greatly impacts the real material conditions of people's lives. And I can say that it means something to me when I see faculty and administrators at particular events, or seeing the institution, the seminary, acknowledging, as Averin said, Trans Day of Remembrance, or in resilience. But I also, while that means something, I see the win again as something that is going to materially impact and change my life and the lives of other trans folks for the better. So that actually for me looks like while the presence means something, it's actually backing it up with actions. And something that I have seen in the two theological spaces, theological education spaces that I've been in, are task forces and institutional statements of affirmation.
They're all
and I'm about tired of that. I'm about tired of it on the broader level, like when it just comes to life on earth, but also just the way that those things become replacements for actual change. So when I think about institutional wins, I think about seeing more people that are trans and queer in leadership in my institution. There are not any. Seeing those folks that are at academic institutions that are, based in theology, if they're in those positions, then being promoted, right? Increasing salaries, like tangible changes and impacts to their lives. I see it as like true repentance and reparations for LGBTQ students. I was a part of curating a service for an alumna of Columbia, a trans woman who was denied her degree, was not able to graduate, and was denied ordination in the denomination. And we were able to host her and have a service during Pride in honor of her, but not just in honor of her, not just in honor of Reverend Connie, but also to recognize the harm that had been done to her by some individuals who are still on staff here at this seminary today, right? And some who have passed on or have moved on. And so for me, that was an institutional win to be able to bring her in, to have her preach in a space where she was denied, to be able to exercise her voice, to have her serve communion alongside faculty, to have her be paid, again, the basic things from the seminary's budget and on and on. That to me is what institutional wins look like for me, because I know that these are institutions and these are entities that are capable of great change. And so I'm no longer willing to accept bread and crumbs of bread from these institutions. And I guess to sum it up, I think for me, institutional change and institutional wins, not just of theological, institutions, but all institutions, it looks like acknowledging and dismantling and then abolishing white supremacy, because we have to understand that these are all intersected. The transphobia and the queerphobia, the elitism of academic education, the class privilege that happens within academia and so forth. We have to understand they're all connected. And so to me, that is what is at its core, right? Is once we are dismantling and abolishing white supremacy, we're dismantling and abolishing transphobia and sexism and queerphobia and so on and so forth.
Means capitalism.
So I guess that's my response. And I want to continue to see faculty, administrators, folks showing up, but I also want to press institutions of theological learning to do more, and to really put actions behind their words.
That was incredible. Thank you so much for that. And it sets us up really well for our next question, which is, how do you overcome the hurdles of the cis-heteropatriarchy monster? And I want the term cis-heteropatriarchy monster to be in everyone's vocabulary from now on.
I wish I had, this is another one of those questions where I'm kind of embarrassed of my true answer. I wish I could say, yeah, when I encounter the hurdles of cis-heteropatriarchy's monsters, I just do some research or pray or something. But honestly, it's community. And it's I text people, I send a silly, hey, message to Meg, and they're cool enough to message me back. It's things like that I think about those days through the last semester where I just was like, did that just happen in a class? Or am I really going to school for this? Is this real? What? Um, when I feel like those
Dark of the
hurdles
Moon,
are put in
Pumpkin
my
Stout.
path, community is the thing that I think I go to first, like without even thinking, without even um, second guessing anything. I go to like, who's my community? Who is someone or someone's that I can reach out to that's going to understand it, where I don't have to explain what's going
Well,
on or explain that
actually,
cis-heteropatriarchy.
we have actually specifically seen references to that specific style of nose ring being a symbol of queer. So I used to have a nose ring. I used to have a nose ring on the side, though. And it fell out one day and I never put it back in. But like that specific nose ring specifically, like I forget exactly the septum piercing, that is a specific reference to being queer. It's like a visual indication. That now it's not to say that everyone who has a septum piercing is queer, but there are a disproportionate number of queer people who have septum piercings.
Monsters are
Similar to
real and
bad
exist
tattoos.
and
Exactly.
can jump
Similar
out
to
and
bad
throw your whole day
tattoos.
off. It's finding and knowing that I have some folks that get it and that will be in my corner. And so for me, it's people is my number one resource, probably first. And then I think I would say the good seminarian answers of prayer and journaling and all those responsibilities. But I grab my phone and I text people first is my real answer.
Big same from me. Community is it. I mean, doing
Yo, septum piercings do hurt real bad because there's a nerve and it has to go through the nerve. So yeah, septum piercings hurt real fucking bad.
any of this alone, I think would just be impossible. But I also think the way you phrased the question, Jacob, was really interesting about how we overcome the hurdles. I didn't sign up for a hurdle race. I don't run and I really don't jump. So like, that is just not what I'm here for. And so a lot of the time I find ways to step around it instead of trying to jump over it. Like, just because they set a hurdle in front of me doesn't mean I'm obligated to jump it. That's not my skill set and it is not what I'm here for. So yeah, I rely on my community. But I also rely on, I think trans people, in addition to our capacity for joy, we are really good at thinking outside the box and finding different ways through the world. We've had to. And so I get creative and I find another way to get where I'm going if they throw something in front of me.
Oh, I have to follow up on that. It's just amazing. I just love this group, every one of us in this space. I feel honored to be here. But that idea of just going around it where we can. And I know I have privilege because I'm older and I have a certain income coming in that allows me to live. I can't afford to live where I live for very long, but I have enough for now. And so one of the things I realized is when there are gates in the way that I can't get through and I don't want to stress myself and I don't need to do those hurdles because I don't run or jump either. Those gates are in a vast field. And all I have to do is walk in the field a little bit and find a different place to where I need to be. And it's not simple and it's not easy and it's not the way it should be. But I don't have any expectation. Walking into seminary, I had zero expectation of a job coming out. I'm not going to get called as a pastor. My white men in my seminary are going to get called as pastors. The white women are going to find it harder. The queer people are going to find it harder. The non-passing trans folks, it's not going to happen. And so I have to find my own way. And that gives me power because I don't have to listen to the bullshit when a professor is doing something that is wrong, and I can call them on it and I can speak and I don't need their letter of recommendation. So these are things I can do because of my privilege and my privilege in being white in this case, right? And so then I can start trying to use that privilege, and I need to use that privilege where I can. But no, we need to find our ways around those hurdles because we don't need to be the ponies.
Jacob, I want to make sure I got is it cis-heteronormative patriarchy? What's the term?
Cis-heteropatriarchy monster.
Cis-heteropatriarchy monster. To be honest, I don't have an answer to how I overcome that. But what I can say in response is,
by the way,
that
this is how you know this person is a useful idiot. This person's not a true believer. This person is probably a mentally ill person that got brought into this ideology, that learned about it at some point in school, that said, oh, I feel socially awkward and I don't have friends, so I must be queer, I must be a different gender. And they got sucked into this, and they don't really understand the philosophy they're advancing. And this is how you know that. Because, like, if someone asks you, how do we get rid of the cis-hetero patriarchy, heteronormative patriarchy, like, that is an easy answer for someone who's a true believer. They think about this shit all the time. They know there's basically a scripted answer they can rattle off, and da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, it'll have something to do with capitalism and power and oppression and privilege and all that shit, just like the last person did. But this person doesn't have an answer because they're not a true believer. That's not a man. That's a they, them.
I have to look at, in overcoming any hurdle that is rooted and grounded in patriarchy and white supremacy and cis heteronormativity.
All that means capitalism.
I have to look at myself. The monster can be inside.
Oh.
And to kind of pull on Audre Lorde and bell hooks, that to me is the most critical monster that, if you will, that needs to be dealt with. The transformation that I want to see has to be internalized. My relationship to myself and my body and my psyche and my spirit, my relationship to my partner and my family and my friends, the people closest to me who are the hardest to love sometimes.
True.
Those relationships and this inter relationship, as well as with fellow queer folks and community, are the ones that I think I have to be the most careful of not causing to destruct and I don't say that to demonize myself or those relationships. I say that because I think that for me, it's really important that I take that critical lens and turn it inward to see how am I constantly measuring up against that.
No, wrong. No, wrong. All of those things are references to capitalism. Normativity means the things that uphold the capitalist norms of society. Patriarchy is a reference to capitalism creating the gender binary. The gender binary means men and women. Another term for the gender binary is the patriarchy. These are very easy to define terms. When you listen to the left, they say it all the time. Cis is a reference to things that uphold capitalism versus trans, or in this case, queer, which are not really the same thing, but queer is a reference to anti-capitalism. So all of those things are references to capitalism. Nope, you're wrong. 1 in the chat if you agree with me. 2 in the chat if you agree with this guy. No, bro. What we're doing is correctly defining the terms as the left defines them. Your definitions don't matter. The purpose of this is to understand the left. If you do not understand the left, you will never defeat them. You don't get a fucking vote, asshole. Everyone else agrees with me because you're new here and you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Your job is to sit down and shut the fuck up and listen and ask questions if you have them. Your job is not to define anything. This is my classroom. It's not yours. Everyone agrees with me. No one agrees with this guy. Let's continue.
Monster, so that I don't become or replicate the monster that I'm trying to avoid, right? That hurdle that I'm trying to get over. So I think that is what's most important. And what's really at stake for me is to not perpetuate.
and you've learned nothing. Then you've absolutely learned nothing. And I don't believe you because I know everyone who donates to me and I've never seen your name on nothing. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Sit down, shut the fuck up, and listen. Okay, yeah, actually, this is a great test. This is only for that guy. If you're not new here, we need you to define capitalism for us. What does the left mean by capitalism? Define it for us right now. This is only for you. I don't want anyone else answering this. What is the left's definition of capitalism? Go. I don't want to hear anything else from you except for the left's definition of capitalism. We're going to see how much you've learned in all those times that you've allegedly been on my channel and have allegedly donated me money. What is the left's definition of capitalism? Go. We'll wait. What is the left's definition of capitalism? We're waiting. You've already had more than enough time. Every single person in my chat can define this. Why can't you define this? When I ask the people in my chat to define this, you're going to feel really fucking stupid. What is the left's? So type it. So type it. Go. We're fucking waiting. What is the left's definition of capitalism? You haven't chatted in here since Nitwits number 63. Exactly. We're waiting. What is the left's definition of capitalism? It's 3 fucking words. You should have already been able to type it. This person has only been in the chat for 3 streams, and they sent a super chat asking if they could host Carlin and James. 3 streams. 1 super chat. What is the left's definition of capitalism? Yeah, it is easy. It's really fucking easy. What the fuck is it? You're the one who watches my streams all the time. You know what it is. What is the left's definition of capitalism? If you do not give us the definition, you will be permanently banned from the chat. We're still waiting for the fucking definition, bro. Are you a fucking retard? This is why you are not allowed to speak in my chat. This is why your job is to shut the fuck up and listen. Because you cannot define basic fucking terms on the left. You come in here, you think you know fucking everything, you don't know shit about shit. What is the left's definition of capitalism? Yeah, you're gonna get banned. This is your last chance. He was already banned once. Oh, imagine my shock that this asshole was already banned once. What is the left's definition of capitalism? Last chance. Your options are correctly define the term or say I don't know. Oh, you were never banned? Well, now you are. Goodbye. Now he is. Everyone in the chat, what is the left's definition of capitalism? Everyone in the chat can now answer this question to show that guy what a raging fucking retard he is. What is the left's definition of capitalism? Private property ownership, private property ownership, private property ownership, private property ownership, private property ownership. Look how easy that was. Look at how fucking easy that was. Why couldn't that guy do it? That guy allegedly had been on my channel all the time. See, this is what happens. People come into the chat, they're like, I watch your stuff all the time, and I'm your biggest fan, and I just don't understand why you're fighting with James Lindsay, and blah, 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 blah. And I say, what's the definition of capitalism? And they never know the definition of capitalism. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? That the people who come in and argue with me and claim that they're my biggest fan, they never know how to define capitalism, and it's like the most basic 101 level thing. Look at all these people who know the correct definition of capitalism. You also have to be one weak motherfucker to not be able to say, I don't know, to a question. Ain't that the truth? All right, fun's over. Let's continue.
The cis-heteropatriarchy that can be buried within myself because I exist in a cis-heteropatriarchy society that wants me to continue to fall for that trap. And how do I overcome that? And then, yeah, so then there is a lot of deep spiritual work that has to happen. Me and Jesus have to wrestle it out because sometimes I look at the text and I see a cis-heteropatriarchal Jesus. So we have to duke it out sometimes. And I find that in that wrestling, both with my faith and spirituality and with myself, that I'm elevated just a little bit more, and then I can go on, as my grandmother would say, one more day to see what the end's going to be. I can push one more day, and perhaps I've overcome the monster, not just the monster out there, but the one that's within.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we've got a couple more questions, and then we'll open it up if anyone else has questions. What strategies have you found for resisting tokenization?
I guess I can go. Saying no has been really freeing. I also will own I'm into my 30s now, and being in your 30s, like I did not know. No one tells you that that's so freeing to just say no to people, and that I'm just allowed to. So I feel like at this state in my life, I refuse. Like if I'm going to be their first queer friend or their first they them friend, I have the ability to kind of interrogate that and say, no, come back to me after you've like kind of like done some research, learned some things, like when we can actually like build a friendship that's like based on some real stuff and not just on this weird, you just trying to collect me thing. Similar to tokenization that comes from like faculty or staff and like, oh, hey, Averin, I was wondering if you could write up a statement for our website about transnet, like something that they want you to do that's extra labor for free. Being able to recognize and be like, no, that sounds like a job. And no, actually, no, I'm not going to. And so I started by saying this is something in my 30s that's new, because I know 20 years ago, or 20 years, well, 20 years ago, yeah, but also 10 years ago, I wasn't in a place to say no, and felt like the best way to be was to say yes, and to be like, of course, you want to become everyone's token and everyone's one lovable, understandable, happy, awesome queer friend. But now recognizing, no, for free, no, I don't need that. And so setting, I guess, boundaries and recognizing my boundaries and being able to enforce them when necessary is something that came back in full force when starting up seminary.
All right, anybody else?
In a way, were you going to go, Meg? I can. Okay. I love that. And I've taken a somewhat different route. I got kind of lucky in a way, or maybe unlucky. Before I was ever a student, I was asked to join the DEI team. I'd spoken to the president of the seminary about some of the anti-racism work that I had been part of. That wasn't much, honestly, but it's more than others, I guess. And so she asked me to be on the DEI team. It wasn't because of my anti-racism work. It's because I'm a transgender woman, an open and out, obviously transgender woman on the team. But that team has specifically and purposefully sought inclusion of voices, right? So there is the token Asian person, there's the token Black person, there's the token Hispanic person. But when you have enough token people, we become the voice. And it really told at one point where I adore the president of our seminary in so many ways. But at one point, I felt like she was getting frustrated because all of us who were either BIPOC or queer weren't going along and were questioning and pushing back. And our voices were heard. And the way that Wartburg started looking at things like hiring, there's actually an effort now to start saying, how do we change our rules so that the rules don't drive over people? Because we are white. I mean, we're very white in our faculty. We're very cis-het in the way we appear in our faculty. So I've resisted tokenization by being the obviously queer transgender person who speaks.
I love that. I love that, Mika. I think for me, this often comes about because I'm the only person someone in authority can think of who has my identities, which is shitty. But because they are at least seeking my opinion or my presence out, I've been trying to use those opportunities to go, oh gosh, I'm real busy right now, but you know who you should talk to? And then I name like 5 more people. And I usually try to say, why don't you talk to all of them? Because they can give you, you know, a more diverse perspective than just my individual lived experience. So in a weird way, you know, the tokenization sucks, but it also is an opportunity to like hold the door open for more people. And that's what I try to do with it.
Thank you for that. All right. Our last question is, you know, that we hear a lot in the media about how obsessed folks are with how trans people go to the bathroom. But beyond bathrooms and access to bathrooms and the ability to get to pee whenever we need to, what are we really asking for now beyond
that? My ask is pretty simple. I would really like trans people to not be murdered anymore.
Oh my God.
You know, the bathroom thing sucks. The accessibility sucks. Inclusion and being heard and all of those issues, all the crappy like sports bans and stuff, all of it sucks. But I'd really like to just start with the basic of not having my trans siblings murdered. That's what I'm asking for.
That reminds me of that kid that Nick Fuentes debated.
I'm asking for jobs. Like trans people have bills too. And I'm asking for a future or a world where trans students, like when Vico was saying, like knowing, like we should be in seminary, like, oh, we know we got jobs. Like we know we're gonna get paid after this. Like you can be out as you want to be and jobs will be lined up. Like people need to pay us. Like y'all heard like the brilliance coming from these folks. Like it's like, yes, like pay these folks. And so I want to normalize or see normalized recognizing that there's a wealth of resources within trans folks and trans stories and trans lives, but that in order to access those resources or in order to keep those resources going, we also need resources thrown back at us. And so kind of the understanding of like, are you making opportunities for folks at the expense of them, or are you actually making expenses like available so that people can have opportunities?
Hey.
And I guess I'll just add one last piece to that, because I think everything that both Meg and Averin said there is absolutely true. And I think the ask I have is for the cis-het folks, but even other queer who aren't trans, to give up the habit of silence, this just passiveness, even in the face of hate. And I call my seminary's chapel on this. That
is that the wife?
They haven't, in the face of these laws, undergirded by words of faith, right? Words of faith twisted into weapons, into hate. Our chapel isn't speaking daily to how we need to be different, and isn't talking daily about anti-racism work that we must be doing, and isn't getting active in the community. There's silence, and we need to give up that habit. And that's sin.
Queer who aren't trans. Exactly, Rottweiler. Queer who aren't trans.
We are running low on time. I have to do, if there's burning questions that you are holding on to that you want to ask, I'll give you a second to do that. But first, I have to give a shameless plug because we are accepting applications for the next cohort. So if you are
that's not what they're doing.
Seminary student,
what they're doing.
And,
Stop doing conservative
non-binary,
talking
trans,
points.
Gender nonconforming, however you self-identify in that way, here is the link. we just extended the deadline for applications to July 1st. So I hope that you will tell all your friends and anyone you know who wants to be part of a brilliant group like the folks you just heard. And I also want to just give a little shout out to Ezra, who's one of our current faculty members along with me. And it has been here with us this evening. And he says, hey, in the chat. Oh, and there's a question in the chat from Liz. What surprised you most in seminary?
I'll take a stab at that. Thank you for the question, Liz. What has surprised me most in seminary? It no longer surprises me, but it did, was the ways in which the institutions of higher learning and theology are microcosms of the church, and sometimes in the good ways, in the building the fellowship in the community, but mostly in the not so good ways, where I'm like, I thought we were at seminary. I thought we want to change the world and change the church and be better. That's something that has surprised me, but I see it as an opportunity to continue to push and invite the institutions themselves to do better. I mean, I think that there are just certain habits from my experience of the Big C church that just need to die. So when I see them in seminary and I'm like, wait, we're practicing this out now, so we're just gonna keep doing this. I want to see seminary be that place that challenges back against some of those norms and things of the church. For example, not paying, and this is not one in particular institution, well, maybe, but not paying folks for CPE or their field or contextual education. Having spaces that seem to kind of repeat patterns and habits that can be exclusionary when we're trying to work this out in a more inclusive way. So that is something that has surprised me. And I think that there's so much potential for theological institutions to not repeat the things that may not be so life-giving or even healthy for us.
We have one more, well, it's a two-parter question, and then I think we'll close. Linz says, two questions on their heart as someone discerning a path of spiritual leadership. What do you wish that you had known when considering seminary programs? And beyond brick and mortar churches or chaplaincy, where do you see ministry taking place in your future, especially if trans folks need to create their own spaces and jobs?
I see Avron put a good answer to part of that into the chat, which is similar to what I would say. Because I don't see a future for me in a congregational church, although I'm in one now, which is my surprise. I am very active in learning community activism and fundraising so that I can get out there and call people together. And I start doing that in seminary. I'm not waiting until the end. So I'm starting queer affirming spaces within my synod with the blessing of my bishop, which has been fascinating to me. I'm looking at queer affirming spaces in my city, because even though I live in a progressive city, still got lots of problems with being queer affirming and the racism that just sinks into institutions. So you create your own path, you follow your own goals to what matters to you, at least for me.
I mentioned earlier that I've had a surprisingly very positive experience in my seminary, especially in terms of queer and trans inclusion. So I think what I wish I had known before coming in was how true that was going to be. I think we get a lot of promises made to us in the admissions process about how progressive spaces are or how inclusive they're supposed to be. And then a lot of people get there and they aren't. And I kind of knew that going in. And so I walked into my seminary with a little bit of a like closed attitude and some defensiveness and also like not a Christian in a Christian institution and just all this kind of baggage about like how people were going to receive me. And I guess I wish I had known in advance that it really was not going to be the way I was afraid it was going to be, because I think I would have come in with a more open attitude to my learning process sooner. And I would have gotten that much more out of this journey. So.
Well, thank you all. Thank you to the cohort students for your.
Well, I think that's it for today, guys. We made it through that whole presentation. We got a couple good clips talking about queering all religion and things like that. Again, if you just joined us, we have been watching a presentation about queering and transcending trans and non-binary Samaritan leaders. This is from a religious education school out in Berkeley, California, so it is just about as woke as you think it is. The biggest message that I want people to take away from this is that this is happening in your church. Yes, Catholics, even you. Yep, all churches. And so people need to be aware of this, because if people are not aware that your religious institutions are being co-opted by a far left political ideology, it's going to sneak right up on you and it's going to catch you and you're not going to know what happened, and it's already going to be too late by the time it does that. So that's part of the why we watch this stuff on the channel, guys, so you can be aware of what is being taught out in the real world every day. And that's all we have for today. So we will be back tomorrow. We will be doing Socialism Saturday at 6 p.m. And that's going to be awesome. In the meantime, if you want to support the work I'm doing and keep me in business, because the reason I'm allowed to do this stuff is that I'm 100% funded by you, head over to my Substack. That is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Sign up for $8 a month, $80 a year. That does help to support the work I'm doing. I would really appreciate it. I got a new article up on the Substack about what Elon Musk does not understand about the left. He quoted something today from Judith Butler, and I was like, oh, Elon, if you only knew what you were quoting. You can find that over on the Substack right now. You can also check out my new Substack, which is speaksocialist.substack.com. This is where I'm slowly but surely writing my next book. My next book is hopefully going to be done by the end of the month. I'm making some good progress behind the scenes. I'm hoping to get even some more stuff up tonight. This is a standalone Substack, so what's going to happen on this is I'm writing a new book called The Definitive Anti-Communist Guide to Decoding the Left. It will hopefully be out before the end of the year, but you can actually see the chapters in real time as they are written over on speaksocialist.substack.com. And when you fund it for $10 a month, $100 a year, I would really appreciate that, because you guys are the ones that are allowing me to do this sort of thing. I also do have some new stuff up in the Unwoke Art merchandise store. We've got this amazing, if I do say so myself, amazing yard sign. You know you want this yard sign. I want to see pictures of this sign in people's yards. People are already ordering them. Everyone who orders one of these yard signs, I need you to put it out there and take a picture for me and send it in, because I think it's awesome. I'm really proud of this product. I think it's fun. I think it's mischievous. I think it's subversive. I think it's going to piss people off. You want to let all the people in your neighborhood know that you are indeed an anti-communist, as you should be. You might even make new friends. You might make friends that you never ever knew you would make. If you're not quite ready for that, I do have a new line of t-shirts up just for Halloween. It's t-shirts, sweatshirts, pine glasses, mugs, and stickers. We've got the Marxism is Coming for Your Soul shirt with Karl Marx as the Grim Reaper. We've got this collectivism shirt that's based off of old school horror movie posters. We've got this Marx shirt, which is kind of based off of like Freddy Krueger in the style of it. It says everyone is equal until they're not. And we've got this one, the Marxist Utopia of the Dead. All of these t-shirts do come in different colors. You can also get it on sweatshirts, pint glasses, mugs, and you can get a sticker pack with all 4 designs if you want some stickers. And all of the designs in the Halloween collection are 25% off As long as you order them by the end of the day on Sunday, the discount expires on Sunday evening. You don't need a discount code or anything. It will automatically be taken in checkout. All of the designs will be available in the store through the end of the month, but if you get them in the first week, then you get 25% off, which is pretty cool, I think, if I do say so myself. And we're going to be gearing up for Christmas sales in the Unwoke Art Store. Holy shit. God, I got to think about my Christmas line now. I did an awesome Christmas line last year. Kind of, I guess the only reason I'm really hoping Trump wins is because I would make some epic Christmas merch out of Trump. Anyway, just go get yourself some Halloween merch. It's cool. I love my stuff. I think I have the coolest merch on the internet. Not going to pat myself on the back too much, but I have the coolest merch on the internet. I'm just saying. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. I'm headed out for the night. Take care. Have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.